all have signed this amendment. And this amendment says what we Eurosceptics have been saying all along, that the European Union produces its laws in a form of gobbledygook, of stentorian, sesquipedalian sentences that nobody can ever understand, and therefore when it's brought into British law, it should be brought into British law in a form that requires a plain English translation, because the headline of the clause is plain English summary. Of course I give way.
I agree with the description, actually. Would you agree with me that a lot of these things are almost as bad as the drafting of finance bills, which this government brings before the House of Commons year by year?
I am extremely grateful for the humility being shown by my distinguished right honourable and learned friend, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, who admits that some of the bills brought forward by his own form and department are incomprehensible to the lay reader. And it is a broader problem of legislation, but it has been a particular problem of European legislation. And it's why I actually have some sympathy for the amendment. I think it is something the government should seek to do as EU law is brought into UK law, which I think is widely accepted is the right starting point for when we leave the European Union, but it ought to be intelligible, it ought to be easy to understand, and this is part of the area where I do agree with my right honourable and learned friend, the member for Beaconsfield, who said it is one of the principles of the rule of law, and as we do that, we should of course be sticking to basic constitutional fairness principles. But it is, I think, glorious that perhaps the second argument of the Eurosceptics has been accepted in this motion, that the first is the basic one of taking back control, but the second one was that the fundamental nature of the way in which the EU created law and the whole body of the acquis communautaire was not comprehensible to most people, was not subject to satisfactory democratic control, and was a bureaucratic monster that rolled on and on regardless. But yes, I think a lot of the legislation that we pass can be explained to everybody, even to ourselves, in a way that we can understand. We look at the Treasury bench and we see some of the finest brains in Britain who get up to the dispatch box, and explain to us in terms even members of Parliament can understand what is going to be passed into law, even those of us who are not learned members of Parliament. So I think laws can be explained simply. I think it's a worthy ambition, and I really do think that new Clause 21 makes the important point that the EU, for our period of membership, increasingly turned out law that people did not understand. And this is a golden opportunity to improve the quality of the legislation that we pass, of people's general understanding of it, of our own understanding of it. And I think clarity is just and fair. And I also agree with my right honourable and learned friend, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, that we want to apply this to our own work as well. There's no point in complaining about the European Union in this context and then making our own laws incomprehensible. And just as a side, Dame Rosie, on what my right honourable friend was saying, one of the reasons for so much tax avoidance is because tax law is written in so complicated a matter. But I wanted to come on to Amendment 348 because it's an important amendment and has been touched on, as the honourable gentleman rightly said, by the humble address that was brought forward on the 1st of November, and has been dealt with by the government. And it's important to look at what the government has actually done in response to the humble address.
They call him the winner who takes all